and welcome to episode number 22 of Talking ATL Hawks. We are back with some not very fun games to talk about. We had about three games since our last episode, and not a single win to talk about. But before we get into the sadness that is the Atlanta Hawks, how's y'all's week been?
Joyner, as Chase and I cuddle over here, Chase was not a part of us. He's always a part of us, but he wasn't
Chase, we
with
miss you,
us
buddy.
in the physical.
I
realm.
miss y'all guys.
I didn't, but that's
Chick-fil-A
okay.
was holding me hostage.
Yeah,
Hey, look, that's the most Atlanta thing you probably could have said. Well, other than that, I guess Waffle House would have been
That
the
would have
most
been more
Atlanta
Atlanta,
thing.
yeah.
But yeah, so Chase wasn't with us last episode, and for Chase, just in case Chase didn't go back and listen to the episode, at the end of it, of course, we were coming off that huge Sunday win in Milwaukee, where Dyson Daniels broke a franchise record. The vibes were just nice. We were coming back home for game against the Trailblazers.
A great way to end the month of March.
And we were just so optimistic about the last 8 games of the season and talking so much about how the Hawks, this is their chance to put their foot through the door and solidify that 7th seed of the play-in tournament. And a week later, I'm afraid that it's becoming more and more realistic. We not only get the 8th seed, but the 9th and 10th seed might be where Atlanta lands to put things to put the bow on the season, because the Heat and the Bulls are right on our tails. And those are 2 teams that back in February, back in early March, never thought I'd had to be worried about it. But here we are.
I want to shout out my a good friend of ours, Scary Terry. He's a big Chicago Bulls fan. And I remember just weeks ago, he was talking about how he just wants the Bulls to tank. And the Bulls were on a downward spiral. And he was happy about it. He's like, the Bulls are tanking, if that's what you want to call it. They're going to get that number one number. Their odds are getting higher to get that number 1 pick in the NBA draft. This is what I want. We are building our future. But then all of a sudden, the pieces that they got in the trade involving Zach LaVine, involving Alex Caruso, right before the deadline, when what I mean is Josh Giddey and even Kevin Huerter, by the way, Red Velvet. He's still battling injuries, even in Chicago. But the games Red Velvet is playing for Chicago, he's actually playing some really good ball. But the guy I want to talk about the most,
Josh Giggity.
For the Chicago Bulls, buddy.
Kitty Fiddler.
You know what? Listen, I say what you want about Josh Giddey. He may never beat the allegations. You know what? That's up for debate. But one thing we do know for sure, that he solidified himself in the Chicago Bulls legendary status. You know how much aura he got hitting a half-court shot for the win right in LeBron's mouth? Like, he just whipped out his Giddy and shoved it down LeBron's throat, and now he has so much aura for it. I came from making fun of this man, and now I respect this man. On the basketball court, off the court is a little questionable, but on the basketball court, I have nothing but respect for this man, Giddy. But we're not here to talk about Chicago.
Given Giddy's,
why did you let me rant about Chicago Bulls? This is a Hawks podcast. Why did y'all just let me talk about the Bulls for like 3 minutes?
Given you who was to bring Nick Nurse onto our podcast. I mean, come on, like when you're
hey, that's still happening. I had a perfect Giddy joke that you're not letting me get out. Pause your Giddy joke, because you know what, Joyner? That Nick Nurse thing is still happening. You know what? I've decided that once it hits the offseason and he can just sit back and just watch the submarine implode, that's what I'm going to invite him to the podcast. I'm sorry. Josh Giddey.
No, I was just saying, you said he probably, how much aura he got doing that in LeBron's mouth. Given Giddy's background, I think he's more of a Bronny guy. Or maybe a Bryce James kind of guy. I don't think LeBron's really quite up his alley.
Probably a Bryce James, because Bryce James is actually 17.
Dude,
he's around that age.
Just wait till Bryce starts going to the games.
Like father, like son. They all get a piece of Giddy.
Okay.
What a start to this podcast. Joyner, how about you bring in some star pitch?
Please,
what a segue.
Please change the subject. Please change the subject before we
go.
YouTube.
For my star bench cut, I decided to do some Hawks legends.
Uh-oh.
I
Quotations.
love where the
Uh-oh.
this is going.
Let's hear it.
First one is a guy we've already mentioned in these start bench cuts. I'm gonna go Dwight Howard, the greatest
Hawks
Hawk
legend.
center of all time.
And you know
Dwight
what?
Howard.
He was just inducted into the NBA Hall of Fame. So let's
That's
give Dwight
why-
Howard the 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. He deserved it. I wasn't the biggest Dwight fan when he was in Atlanta, but I can't deny greatness.
If Dwight Howard's jersey does not get retired in State Farm Arena, we riot.
The second guy I want to bring up is a guy that and the reason why I'm bringing him up is because not only is he a notable name, he made a crazy near half court shot against the Raptors when he was on the Knicks. But me and my brother went to a Hawks game, and we yelled at his name, and he smiled and waved at us.
Linsanity?
Linsanity, Jeremy Lin, and perhaps the greatest Hawk of all time.
I think I can take a guess of who's going to be third on this list.
We had him for a solid, maybe not even a minute. We got him from the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Also,
number 15, Carmelo Anthony.
Which, by the way, he is also now a first ballot Hall of Famer. So give it up for Carmelo Anthony.
That's why I'm bringing him on. That's another reason why I'm bringing him on.
We all knew Melo Jello was going to be a first ballot.
I'm perfect.
I'm going to let Andrew go. Take this one first.
I want you to go first. I got to think about this one for a minute. I'm a little perplexed.
So if we're talking about, obviously, if we're going off Atlanta stats, I think by default, Carmelo would have to be last. But we're not going to go based on that.
I think he was on the minutes restriction.
No, I'm not going by that.
We are going by these individual players that have technically, obviously, Jeremy Lin and Dwight Howard had some playing time for the Hawks. Carmelo Anthony, he was still a Hawk. I don't care what you say. He was technically listed as an Atlanta Hawk.
The Hawks printed out his jersey. They have
exactly. And if you go through his NBA career, the Atlanta Hawks are going to be on his list of teams he played for. He's not going to have any stats for them, but it's going to be on the list because he was a Hawk. So,
if you're under contract, which he was, you were on the team.
Here's what I'm going to say. Carmelo Anthony is my clear number one. I think Carmelo Anthony.
So you're starting Carmelo Anthony.
Oh, I'm starting Carmelo Anthony 100%. I think Carmelo Anthony is a top. This might sound, well, I don't know. I don't think it's controversial at all. Carmelo Anthony's in my top 50, probably a little bit lower, but I'm just saying top 50 just to play it safe because I don't have my full list planned out. But he's at least in my top 50 greatest NBA players of all time.
I don't think he'd be top 50.
He's in my top 50.
Top 75, I would have him.
Oh, no, he's in my top 50. Dwight Howard, he's not in my top 50. So just by default, based on that kind of greatness level, Carmelo's clear start. Bench, I'm not the biggest Dwight Howard fan. Not like I have anything against his play style. I just don't think he was that great in Atlanta. He was great defensively, but I hated the way that he scored the ball because he couldn't.
But don't let his locker room shenanigans scare you away.
And when he wasn't grabbing balls off the rim, he was grabbing balls somewhere else. And I just, I was just, a little uncomfortable by that whole situation. And John Wall really got the best of those goodies.
Listen, when John Wall came out of the locker room and said that he was having butt problems, Dwight Howard was the only one in there. I'm just saying.
And Dwight Howard had a smile on his face too. But I'm going to have to bench Dwight Howard because, again, those are Carmelo, Dwight Howard. Those are two first ballot Hall of Famers. Jeremy Lin, if you take the early stages of his career and flatten it out and make a full 15-year career out of that, he gets in the Hall of Fame. So in some shape, way, or form. But obviously, we know trades, we know injuries. One of the most devastating clips you're ever going to see is when he was on the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah.
And he knew his career was done. In that moment, when he knew his career was done, it breaks your heart, man. It really does break your heart. But I love Linsanity. He has one of the greatest NBA heat checks of all time. I loved having him in Atlanta, even though he wasn't like a great stat pattern for the Hawks. He was just a fun guy to have around, and it was during our drowsy years, so it was just kind of one of those like filler guys when you were trying to rebuild the roster. So Jeremy Lin's gonna have to be my cut spot.
I'm gonna take a different approach on this list.
Okay.
It seems like
Howard's your number one, huh?
It seems like you're going off of well, I guess Jordan, this is your thing. I'm gonna ask you, Jordan, to clarify. Are we going off based on like just how they were as a player, or like their impact on the Hawks?
Well, if their impact,
Maybe
on the Hawks,
are you joining?
Well,
I'm sorry.
Here's the thing. For me personally, I'm just gonna go like no context for my list. It's like list off players, just to like
your own discernment. Your own discernment.
But if y'all want to like rank your guys based off certain stuff, y'all can go for it. I was just trying to be like funny.
You know what? No, and you know what? I'm glad you said that because I'm gonna take a different approach on this list. And number one on my list is you give some freaking respect to Atlanta Hawks Dwight Howard. The hate you give the Atlanta Hawks Dwight Howard is honestly disgusting.
It's not hate. I never hated
disrespect. And I don't want you to talk. I want you to listen. I want you to listen good, buddy, because when you talk about Dwight Howard, Atlanta Hawks, it's pure disrespect. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that Dwight Howard was an elite center. He was not by any means, but the Dwight Howard was part of the transition year for the Atlanta Hawks. He was part of the beginning of the end in terms of that era of the Hawks. This is when we were still competitors, but the rebuild was on the horizon, and he was that man that was put in place to help the Hawks compete with what they had. And at the time, it wasn't a bad roster with Dennis Schroeder, Tim Hardaway Jr., Kent Bazemore. It wasn't awful. It really wasn't. A lot of former All-Stars and current All-Stars on that team, and that was also Dennis Schroeder's best year. But Dwight Howard, say what you want, was one of the best rebounders in the NBA that year.
Well, he's always been a good rebounder.
Yeah. Listen. But hey, where he struggled was putting up shots. But that's
pretty important.
That that it was later in his career, and he just wasn't a good contact finisher like he used to be. But another thing that a lot of people seem to forget about is that he was a pick and roll machine. And I'm talking about he was Schroeder and Howard was Trey and Collins before Trey and Collins was a thing. And I'm talking about every single game, the first play we would run when we won that tip-off was Schroeder would dribble up there. Dwight Howard set a screen. He'd roll, and it's a lot of Dwight Howard every single time. And his defense, his rim protection was elite. And you know what? And Dwight Howard did a lot of good. And he came in insanely clutch in one of the most iconic Hawks games in recent history, our 4 overtime win against the Knicks. He was the biggest factor in that game. And I understand. I feel like you think his weak contact finishing, I think for you just clouds your mind for how much impact he actually made on the Atlanta Hawks. And I want to give him some love. So he goes number one.
Just before you move on, are we at least in agreement that Hawks Clint Capella is better than Hawks Dwight Howard?
Depends on what year Hawks Clint Capella.
No, I'm just talking about in general.
I would take 2016 Hawks Dwight Howard over last year Clint Capella any day of the week.
I'm not taking any. I'm taking any.
But you're interrupting my list. You're trying to start a new debate. I'm going down on my list.
Clint Capella.
I'm going down on my list. Number 2, Jeremy Lin. Now, Jeremy Lin, what I loved, you know what? Jeremy Lin kind of reminds me of what the NBA used to be. The NBA used to be filled with men with heart who cared about their NBA career. And I'm not saying that the NBA is full of people who just don't care. But you look at people right now. You look at players like Joel Embiid. You look at players like Kevin Durant, James Harden, Paul George in a sense. That just seems like they just got too much in their heads. They've done what they want to do. They just don't really care anymore. Jeremy Lin was the most humble guy in the league during his time in there, and he knew the opportunity that he had could easily slip through his fingers, which unfortunately it did, and he made the absolute most of it. And even though when he was on the Hawks, that was like the end of his NBA career, that's when his downfall was like just he was at rock bottom. That's just when we were like, okay, Jeremy Lin's never going to be what he used to be. But that man had some freaking heart. And that moment when we played the Nets and he went up for that layup and came down towards ACL and he just knew his NBA career was over.
He literally mouthed the words, "I'm done."
That was the most heartbreaking moment in recent Hawks history. I could have shed a tear, man. And then
he wasn't on the Hawks with that.
Yeah, he did. He was on the Hawks.
No, he's played for the Nets.
Buddy, can I just get through my list? Anyway, back what I was saying. And then, well, by the way, he's playing overseas basketball now. But that interview he made like 2 years ago when they asked him about, do you think you'll ever be in the NBA again? And Buddy just broke down in tears and said that, that's I would give anything to be back in the league. He's like, I just don't think I'll ever have that chance again. It makes me appreciate that version of Jeremy Lin even more.
When you say someone's played overseas, that means their career is done.
And then Carmelo Anthony. At number 3, no disrespect. I mean, he did all he could do. He was on a serious minutes restriction with the Atlanta Hawks. He never really got a chance to prove himself. But the moment he was on the Hawks, I think he really did do his part. In terms of whatever he did during his 5 minutes as an Atlanta Hawk, I'm sure he did it with some freaking heart. So no disrespect to you, Carmelo Anthony. I'm sure you were the proudest Hawk to ever walk the earth for 5 minutes. That's my list.
Okay, so I think we're gonna have completely different lists again.
I love when that happens.
I do too.
So I said that I was gonna add context to this, but I only said that for my last 2. But I'm gonna start with Insanity, just because I mean just because like I mentioned earlier, I did get him to wave at me while he was warming up for a game, but
those interactions always hold a special place.
I
completely understand that.
And as you mentioned multiple times, he did back in 2017 he did we did have that very gruesome injury that we can all that we all can remember his very sad reaction to but y'all may not remember this, but he was traded to us the following season, mid season, to kind of mentor Trae Young, and so that's why I'm gonna start him, is because he was mentoring the guy that we have now, who's now our team leader. So I'm gonna start Jeremy Lin. I'm gonna bench Carmelo Anthony because why the hell not? He was the greatest Atlanta Hawk ever. For 15 minutes, he was the greatest Atlanta Hawk ever.
I agree. I couldn't agree more.
And then I'm gonna.
I really wish I would have gotten his jersey. I really wish.
Yes. And then I'm gonna bench that butt lover Dwight Howard. No disrespect.
Dude, I'm just saying, if you want, the proof's in the pudding. If you go back and look at any of his Hawks highlights, I mean, he has. I'm not even joking when I say this. I'm not even trying to be funny. This is full on fact. Buddy had the tightest shorts out of anybody on the court.
Did I see a video when he said that screen and the guy touched his balls and he grinned he smiled?
Yes. Against the Rockets. The Rockets. He had some Rockets guard try to get around a screen, accidentally touch his balls. And it showed Dwight's face.
But it was
Buddy had
but if I meant like that, he was
Buddy had the craziest grin on his face. It was weird. But yeah. I guess
I love how with 20 minutes of the episode, and we've talked about Carmelo Anthony being the greatest hog ever, and Dwight Howard loving balls.
I think we're trying to delay the inevitable because we don't want to talk about the 3 games.
So I guess we can get into it.
Rip it off like a Band-Aid.
I guess.
Yeah. So as we mentioned before, this past when did this all start? On Tuesday. So Tuesday, April Fools. And this is.
I wish this was a joke.
Yes, we all wish this was a joke, but it's not. We did not win a single game before this past week, but we had a game against the Portland Trailblazers at home on Tuesday, April 1st. Chase, since you weren't here last week, why don't you give us your thoughts on this game?
If I could just describe this matchup in 2 words, it'd be Shaden Sharp and Denny. And forgive me if I butcher your name. I don't know. How do you even pronounce that?
Avdia.
Denny Avdia. Okay. Shannon Sharp and Denny Avdia.
That was a lot more than 2 words.
I said 4 words, buddy.
Okay.
I don't know where you heard 2 words.
Well, you quadrupled that total too.
What? Anyway, yeah. So that's how I describe the Atlanta Hawks game, and it's just look Heading into this Portland game, Portland's always been a team that we struggled against in Portland, but we have never really had much trouble with them when they came to Atlanta, except for Tuesday night. And like y'all said, this was no April Fool's joke. Headed to halftime, and it was a really good game, a very highly offensive game. We won the first quarter by 1, lost the second quarter by 4. So we're headed to halftime down by 3. You know, the game's still in reach. We just need to tighten up defensively because offense was rolling. But then, Lord have mercy on my soul, we let them drop 40 points in the third quarter. 40 points. Now, we had 30 ourselves. Like I said, offense was rolling, but there was no defensive help, especially on the inside, because they didn't shoot the 3 ball that well. They only shot 37%. Not too bad. They took 41 freaking 3-pointers, by the way, which is a ridiculous amount of threes, even for today's NBA game. Only made 13 of them. That wasn't the problem. We were getting bullied inside, but it wasn't just like they would go in, take it like I lost my train of thought. They would go in, take an inside shot, and either hit it, but if they didn't hit it, they would grab an offensive rebound. We got absolutely destroyed on the offensive boards, and the amount of second chance points that we gave up, honestly, in just the third quarter alone, was absolutely sickening. It got to the point, there was one possession in the third quarter that they got 3 offensive rebounds, 4 different possessions in the span of like a minute, and eventually made like a mid-range. And Bob and Dominique were just like baffled at like how bad the Hawks had struggled to get a rebound. But there was a moment in the fourth quarter where Trae Young, who by the way didn't shoot the ball particularly well, 7 for 20, still dropped 29 points, 15 assists. Dyson Daniels was absolutely lights out from the field. He was perfect up until the fourth quarter. He missed his first shot in the fourth quarter. Shot 11 for 13, 22 points. Krivovic had 13 points off the bench. He shot 5 for 7. Okongwu had a pretty solid game, a really big fourth quarter that kind of helped lead and almost come back. But oh my gosh, I'm just going to call him Denny, because Denny with a 32-point triple-double, 15 boards, 10 assists. Him and Shannon Sharp were rebounding machines. They were the main reasons the Hawks could not grab a freaking defensive rebound. And that's just my summary of the game. It was very disappointing. This was a game that the Hawks should have had, and it's especially a game the Hawks needed. And when you're at this, like Bob and Dominique were talking about during the next game today, when you're at this point in the season, when you know the situation you're at, when you know that you are fighting with 3 other teams for the 7th spot, every game matters. It doesn't matter if you're playing the worst team or the best team. You have to grab these games. And when you lose a game you know you're supposed to win, it cuts a little deeper, and this one definitely did.
It's Shaden Sharp, by the way. It's not Shannon Sharp.
You just you're just the correct me police today.
God,
you're just bundles of.
I didn't want people to figure out how Shannon Sharp was doing ESPN and playing Hawks basketball at the same time. Because don't waste your fingers. Don't look it up because it's not true. Shannon Sharp, but yeah. Jordan, what are your thoughts on this game? And then I'll give mine.
I think Chase summed it up perfectly. Honestly, the stats show themselves, like just pure dominance from Denny and Shaden. I don't think obviously, like the Hawks didn't shoot particularly well, shooting 31% from three, 45% from the field. When the I'm sorry, 44% from the field, 21% from three, even worse. Trae Young, yes, he had 29 points, but he only made 7 shots from the field. Shots from the field. But he did go to the line a lot. He was 12 for 13 from the line. Again, I don't know why teams are fouling Trae Young so often. Like
the rest were whistle heavy that game. They called every bit of contact.
Yeah. That's my thoughts. I just think we just weren't shooting well, and like if you shoot bad, then you're not going to win, obviously. But that's my thoughts. Andrew, what are your thoughts?
Biggest factor is just the fact of how much Portland dominated the boards, just rebounding wise. Like Chase mentioned earlier, definitely on the offensive side when it comes to offensive rebounding.
God, that third quarter was abysmal.
Just too much second chance points that were converted at the lengths of the Hawks big man just failing to box out properly, and that came on just a lot of missed inside shots. We were always. Had our focus shifted on the ball and the ball itself. And once the shot went up in the air and we contested it well, that's just kind of where our feet fall flat. And I got to give Portland a lot of credit. They have a lot of size for them being such a young team. They have a lot of size, and they give them a height advantage almost. I'd say about 80% of the league. And I think as those players continue to grow and develop, Portland is going to be one of the greatest big men, I guess, teams in the NBA, and I think they're definitely going to be front court or back court heavy or front court heavy. I said that right. Just inside the paint, and I think this game alludes to that kind of future that Portland has. And the Hawks big men just got to do better because there is a way around that dominance when it comes to size. It's just all about boxing out. But you had Dyson Daniels, our shooting guard, out rebound Onyeka Okongwu and Muhammad Gay. And most of Dyson Daniels' rebounds just came off of hard shots that hit off the rim and just happened to go right into his possession. Not like he had to really fight for any of those rebounds. And poor night from the three-point line, 21% from threes, and the Hawks had 20 turnovers in this game. I'd say I'm a picky guy when it comes to turnovers. If the Hawks have 10 turnovers, I'm throwing my remote at the TV. We had 20 turnovers, so I had to throw 2 remotes at my TV, and it was just an ugly way to start the month of April that has so much riding on it when it comes to play and seeding. But then, of course, you have your backs against the wall, but you're taking a mini road trip.
So can I make one more point about the Portland game? That I think that it's important to mention because looking at the Hawks recent performances in the past couple of weeks, something that's been very characteristic about them is that they rely a lot on their bench, and their bench has done a great job supporting our starting 5. That wasn't the case against Portland. Outside of Vic Kurovic and Karis LeVert, Karis LeVert shot like 3 for 10, so even though he put up like 10 points, he didn't shoot the ball well at all. But outside them two, nobody else even touched double figures. Nobody else even really contributed at all. And it was just a poor game off the bench. And the Hawks have shown that this is a team that really needs that bench to support the starting 5. And we didn't get that Tuesday night.
No, definitely not. But yeah, like I was going to say before I throw it to you, Joyner, because Joyner especially is very passionate about what went down in Dallas.
Yeah.
Now Dallas is a team. Now this is a rivalry that was kind of thrown in the mix because of the whole Trae Young and Luka draft night trade situation. Which franchise guy is going to be more the franchise guy? And every time the Hawks and the Mavericks played when Luka was in Dallas, it felt like a playoff game. It felt like a pure rivalry, even though they were across different conferences.
Never did I think that the Mavericks were going to lose Luka before we lost Trae Young, by the way.
But then even once Luka was ripped from the Mavericks and he took his tenure to LA, it kind of felt like that rivalry was going to kind of drizzle out a little bit. But I gotta say, this game in Dallas with Anthony Davis finally healthy again, you kind of felt that intensity, and I think it had a lot to do with because not only is Atlanta fighting for the highest seed when it comes to the play-in, the Mavericks are kind of put in that same situation because they're in jeopardy of sliding down the rank of the seeding when it comes to the play-in tournament, and they want to host a play-in game themselves. So it still had that intensity, and I really loved it. And I think Joyner is doing the same thing we're doing because March Madness is going on right
now. Yeah, I'm watching it.
We had the game pull up on our phone too, so don't worry, Joyner. I'm right there with you.
Cooper Flag just cost me $60.
Yeah, well, they're gonna see how much
time. Yeah, game's not over yet.
It's not over yet. It's not over yet.
He potentially cost me $60.
I know the game's gonna be over by the time this is posted, but Houston is up by 1 with 2.5 seconds left. But they're gonna review to see how much time was left on the clock when the intentional foul was made.
By the way, they got 2 free throws as well. They got 2 free throws.
Duke also has no timeouts.
Yeah, so they're gonna have to go the full length of the court. Assuming that, not assuming anything, they're gonna have to go the full length of the court regardless. But man,
they have like 3 seconds. They have like 3 seconds left.
If Duke does not survive this, does this guarantee a return for Cooper Flag?
No, it doesn't guarantee it. It might put it in question, but there's no way Cooper Flag. I don't know.
It's even in question right now.
Yeah, there's no shot. I don't know why Cooper Flag.
It's not happening.
I think
maybe depending on how the draft lottery goes, because I mean, because I think he's I think there's only like a certain amount of time where you can say he can undergrad or not before the draft lottery or not. But yeah,
I think it just has a lot to do with the fact that he's 19 years old and he might just simply not be ready for the league. Because he's enjoying his time in college. And you know what? I applaud the kid for that kind of maturity, knowing that he can easily be the number 1 overall pick and get that bag of a rookie contract. But he knows within himself that he is not mentally or he is not – I don't know.
Maybe he's worried about the Sixers getting that 1 pick because I wouldn't want to go play for that organization either.
Oh.
Here we go. Intercepted. Wait. That's out. That's it. Duke's gone.
That's it. Duke's gone. We got a Houston and Florida game.
You know what? Good for Houston, man. I would actually love to see Houston win the Natty.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's just I didn't have a dog in the fight, obviously, but Houston is long overdue.
Now I can say that Cooper Flag cost me $60.
Yeah, 3rd national championship game in school history. Congratulations to the Houston Cougars. But
yeah,
Warner, do you want to now that that we got that out of the way? Do you want to go on your rant about this Hawks and Mavericks game that you've been holding on to for so long?
Yeah, guys, I'm sorry. Like we said, we're filming this during the Duke Houston Final Four matchup. Duke, we don't see this, a national champion will be crowned. Yeah. So following the following night after we lost to Portland, the Hawks went to Dallas. Yes, we went to Dallas. And just by the way we were shooting, I did not. Just by the way we were shooting and how Dallas was shooting, I knew that I outright said we did not deserve to win this game. We did not. We were shooting terribly. We shot 43% from the field and 38% from 3. Dallas shot 53% from the field and 45% from 3. And how we lost this game this close, I don't know. Even though Dallas had 15 turnovers, and we out rebounded Dallas by 1. I honestly I had no clue, but Anthony freaking Davis. If y'all weren't watching, Anthony Davis, I can't remember what quarter, but he left the game due to an eye injury, but he came back obviously because he hit the game winner.
Yeah, trust me, we know he was there.
He dropped 34 points and 15 rebounds.
And 5 blocks. I think the 5 blocks is a wild stat to go with that already loaded stat line.
Yeah. But he's not going to win it. He's not a win deep boy. He's not going to win deep.
Oh no, yeah, that's too late for that, buddy. Too late for
that. Spencer Dinwiddie had but Spencer Dinwiddie also had a cool little double with 14 points and 10 assists. But to me, the second player of the game was Klay Thompson.
Dude, he was clutch in that second half.
And he hasn't been all season, by the way.
So that second half, he was mad clutch.
Yeah. Klay freaking Thompson, man. But and Dallas bench stepped up from the pretty good as well. But the Hawks didn't really do that well scoring. Trey finished with 25. Had a bad shooting night as well. 8 for 20 from the field. 2 for 9 from 3. Okongwu had a nice double, 20 points, 14 rebounds. Zachary had 9 points. Dyson Daniels had 17 points, and 1 steal. So he underperformed on the defensive side, in my opinion. But and our bench didn't really help out because our bench winning score. Akira's shot 40% from the field, but then Krejci actually did pretty well for us.
He
shooting
did
4 for 5 and 3 for 4 from 3, and finished with 11 points. But the thing I want to talk about is the last play of the game. That freaking inbounds play that I hate that the Hawks run so much. I don't know why we couldn't freaking box out Anthony Davis or something, because he switched on to Trae Young so fast and got the block to steal the win for the Hawks. I just don't like that inbound play. It's run so badly for us, and I really think it's why we lose on game winners. It's because that stupid inbounds play. That's my rant. I know it wasn't much, but that's my rant. What do y'all thoughts on this game?
Here's the thing, and here's what I'm going to say about this game. This was a fun game from start to finish. I mean, you talk about back and forth action, and like I said, two teams that's been a rivalry since 2018, since Luka and Trae came into the league. This is a fun matchup because, again, we weren't really sure what the intensity of this game was going to be. We knew how much play-in implications rode for both these teams, but in terms of the rivalry between the two, but it seemed like it was never lost, especially because Trae Young was still there. Of course, the Mavericks they don't want to see Trae succeed, especially now that their star is gone. They want to see Trae dwindle out. And Anthony Davis is supposed to be the resurgence, the quote unquote savior for the Dallas Mavericks. And I gotta admit, this is kind of the game that kind of throws that scenario into play and kind of questions, was the Mavericks GM. I'm not playing in his favor, but I'm just saying in terms of the whole controversy behind the move, you throw this stat line out there and you're like, if AD gets consistent, I'm just saying, I'm not playing in favor of him because I'm totally against what happened. But I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm just playing devil's advocate. And this game was fun. It had a lot of lead changes. It had a lot of big runs that took away big leads. The Mavericks' biggest lead in this game was 12. The Hawks' biggest lead in this game was 11. For stat, each team both had 7 steals. They were both front courts were quick with their hands, and it was just high action from the moment tip-off happened. And it was fun. It was really fun. And it got to the point where the Hawks built that 11-point lead at about the midway point of the third quarter. And then the final 6 or 5-ish minutes is when all of the Hawks look, the Mavericks had more turnovers than the Hawks did, but you wouldn't know it by watching the third quarter because the Hawks had like 6 or 7 turnovers in the final 6 or 7 minutes, and it became pure chaos. And that's when you really saw Anthony Davis come into effect defensively because Onyeka Okongwu and Anthony Davis was that heavy backcourt matchup that was really the main source of paint offense for both teams. And they were really going back and forth. And in terms of rebounds, Okongwu is right up to par with Anthony Davis. He grabbed 14 rebounds himself. Each had 20 points. Hey, even Okongwu had 2 blocks. He was his presence was being known defensively, but Anthony Davis really started to reign dominance in that matchup between the two in that third quarter, and it kind of just really bled into the fourth quarter. And that's when and then of course it came down to the final possession. But Joyner already talked about that Anthony Davis floater on Okongwu on that one-on-one matchup that we all saw coming from a mile away. But what really freaking ticked me off was the inbounds play beforehand because remember the Hawks had possession before the Mavericks were given that final breath of fresh air, I guess, to have a chance to win the game. And the Hawks suffered a terrible turnover trying to squeeze an inside pass on the inbounds play because we were trying to make a cut and run at the paint, and it was supposed to be a bounce pass to the guy doing the cut and run for a quick layup to put the Mavericks' backs against the wall. But that play was botched after I think it was a Okongwu that dropped the ball and it rolled out of bounds, and that's what initiated possession for the Mavericks, and that's when the game winner happened, and it was a game that was stripped from my hands, and it crushed my soul.
Well, if there's anything else in the game, I will say that I think that what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, I will say that one thing that in terms of the Hawks that I was impressed with, especially when we just got done talking about the Portland game, talking about how bad the Hawks were at rebounding. I actually felt like we rebounded really well that game against Dallas. And especially, and the Mavericks has a pretty tall lineup with Anthony Davis, Lively, Gafford, and I think we boxed them out pretty well for majority of the game. And honestly, I think in most aspects, especially in the first half, the Hawks were better than the Mavericks. It was just that third quarter that just kind of set the game apart, which the Hawks did eventually end up grabbing a late lead with a huge Dyson Daniels 3. And of course, before that led into the turnover, which led to the Anthony Davis game winner, which also led for a final opportunity for the Atlanta Hawks. And we proceeded. It kind of reminded me of the Toronto Raptors game that we went to. And that
I was actually just thinking about
that horrible play that we drew up that gave the ball to Okongwu, except it fell in Trae Young's hands.
It was the exact inbound play I was telling you about. Except this time it went. Except this time it went to Trae Young, but we just couldn't stop even switching on to Trae and stop him. Like
exactly, dude. Exactly.
I think Davis is a. I think he's won deep play before. I think he has.
Yeah.
He's won deep play. He's won deep play before, and he's 6'11", switching on to a 6'1" point guard.
Yeah, I wish in like these type of moments I could be in the huddle because I love Quinn Snyder, the head coach. He gives me a lot of reason to love him. But I feel like in most instances, especially in like scenarios like this, we force the ball to Trae Young, or we try to anyways. And when it fails, it fails, and when it succeeds, it's still not a good play because it seems like we don't have like a specific plan drawn up. It's just give the ball to Trae and let.
This is the game winner.
Yeah.
Not the final play. Not the final play.
Yeah, here I'll see if I can.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Is this just a game winner?
I think it shows I think it might show the Hawks' final play.
I see. Go into whatever the crap we watch when the Hawks inbound the ball. Because here we go. We got Dyson Daniels inbound the ball. We see Trae Young in the middle, right next to Okongwu. We all know Trae's going to go back to the top of the key. Yep, give it time. There it goes. Now, this is where I think the Mavericks succeeded. Was right at drawn up by Quinn Snyder. I think it was just defensive genius by the Dallas Mavericks.
Although I do think Trey has the speed
Also-
advantage, or at least the leverage
Harmon.
advantage.
So like, also there too, like, so I go back right when Davis like reaches off.
Like right about there.
I mean, you also saw Kobe like go back and like as Davis went forward, right? You all saw that, right?
He's got the size, or he's got the speed advantage and the leverage advantage right here. There's a whole second on the clock. Even driving into the right side of the key, he gets leverage right here where he could have taken him to this side of the baseline. Even in the step back, had that turned to a pump fake, he could take a dribble into it and get an open mid-range shot as opposed to a weird step back three. But I don't know. That was a tough way for that game to slide out of our hands. But unfortunately, it didn't get any better afterwards. It actually got a whole lot worse. Yeah. I don't know if you want to pick up on this game, Chase.
Joyner, I'll let you. I can let you start on this on the game that happened just hours ago.
Okay. Yeah. So today, earlier this afternoon, we had a game against the against our kids, or more like teenage son now. No,
They've grown up.
Like teenagers, we start to like resist your parents and stuff, and like start fighting back against your parents.
You start putting up a fight now.
Yes, exactly. That's what the Knicks is starting to do against Young, because again we lost this game. This is just all New York Knicks starting lineup right here, which. Not really surprising because we all know how Coach Tibbs runs his team.
Yeah.
He likes to pound his guys. Likes to pound his guys and
Howard style, baby.
Yeah. He definitely likes to like play his bench a lot. But the Knicks didn't have Jalen Brunson, so we all thought that like this could be like an easier. So we all thought that this would be. A sort of a better chance for us, but no. DeLon Wright was their starting point guard, but the rest of the Knicks lineup was Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby,
OG was different today, man.
Josh Hart, but Cat had 30 and 11. Josh Hart had 16 and 11. And then Emoji had 24, and Bridges had 20. And then for the Hawks, Trey again was not shooting the ball well. Only had 16 points, 5 for 15 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3. Jackson Daniels had 12. Moke had 6. Zachary had 12. Okongwu had 6. I feel like our bench is a lot better than our starters because Gorgeous Niang, Christopher, and Transman all had around 13, 14 points respectively. But we did play our bench pretty deep because we kind of got our backs blown out by 16. So
that'd be an understatement.
Yeah.
I'd rather have our backs blown out than whatever happened tonight or today.
Yeah. So Andrew, what are your thoughts on this game?
Man, I don't even know where to begin. This was just a different side of a New York Knicks team. And even in the pregame, Trevor Scales especially was really just driving into the Hawks fans' heads of how crucial this game is because we're behind the Magic now. The Heat and the Bulls will not stop winning games. And the Hawks need one impact game because we're only down to 5 games. And we need one impact game to really pivot us in the right direction to gain some kind of momentum. Because it's easy to detect that the Chicago Bulls, out of the 4 teams that are locked to the playoff spot, the Chicago Bulls are the hottest team there. And the Hawks want to get that momentum advantage, but we have to get a win and not a heartbreaker. And I feel like the Hawks started this game in the right way. We had 2 back-to-back deep threes from Trae Young. You had that explosive give and go play where Trey dished a cutting Muhammad Gay from the right side of the key, and Muhammad Gay drove in and did an electric one-hand jam, which, by the ways, that assist, that highlight play from Muhammad Gay that was delivered from Trey Young set Trey Young as the franchise leader in total assists, passing the great Doc Rivers. So congratulations, Trey Young. We all knew it was coming. We just didn't know when, but we all knew it was coming, and I'm glad it happened. And such an explosive play. But everything after that was straight up dog crap. Karl-Anthony Towns did what Karl-Anthony Towns has always done. He dominates the paint. He dominates the rim. He's the closest thing to Nikola Jokic without being Nikola Jokic, because he is a floor general at the center position. He's got great court awareness. He's got great dribbling skills to be a big guy, and he's got that quick release from three, and it's ridiculously deadly. To me, I think Karl-Anthony Towns is the greatest three-point shooting big man, if you were to ask me, and I think that was shown today. And the OG Evan, this was a different OG that the Hawks have ever faced before, because you look at those 24 points, you look at the 3 blocks, you look at the 4 assists, the 4 rebounds. He was not that effective from the boards, but the 10 for 15 shooting in the way that the Knicks team was able to light up from 3. There is a spurt from the end of the second quarter that bled into the third quarter where the Knicks could take any 3 they wanted from any spot of the floor, from any foot position. They could be off balance, they could be set, they could be on their knees. It doesn't matter. That 3-point shot was going in. And once the Hawks slipped momentum and couldn't find a way to get a shot up and couldn't find a way to get inside the paint at all, and the Knicks started hitting those threes, Cat started doing his thing, OG got hot, there was no way the Hawks were going to find their footing again. That game was over.
Yeah, it was just an overall bad performance. I think it's just in the numbers. Knicks shooting 53% as a team, 51% from deep. I mean, there's not much you can do.
It was ugly. It was disgusting. But yeah, that's all I gave my 2 cents, and I'm not happy. I'm not happy one bit. And we got the Magic next on Tuesday night. This was the first of a not back-to-back. What am I talking about? It's Tuesday night. Excuse me.
We got the Jazz tomorrow. Well, actually today.
Yeah, today. So back-to-back does have the Jazz, which that should be a gimme, but I also thought the Trailblazers should have been a gimme.
We also struggle against the Jazz.
And then we got the Magic, the Nets, the Sixers. We got 3 straight road games after this. Yeah. And then we come back home for the final game of the season against the Magic. Those 2 against the Magic are extremely pivotal.
Yep.
I'm a little discouraged, guys. I don't know about y'all, but as a Hawks fan, I'm a little discouraged.
I mean, as we should be, because after this past week, getting not a single win. I predicted this team to go straight up 41-41. I predicted us to be completely mid. I'm not confident in that now, fellas. I really I just don't see it. I just don't see us I just don't see us win 4 straight games. I really don't. It's not looking good. But if we do, that's great. But if not, I don't know.
Only a game and a half separates us from the Bulls, man.
Yeah.
But anything else you guys want to say? I'm kind of muffled out on my words.
Nothing I want to say.
Okay, Jordan, you want to close this out before we embark on the final stretch? Look, by the time we record again, ladies and gentlemen, it will be by the time we record the season's gonna be done. It'll be over. We will play our last game against the Magic. Yep, and we will
play in then.
Well, I just mean in terms of regular season.
Yeah.
Yeah, regular season will be over, and we'll officially know where we stand in terms of seeding. So buckle in, guys, because this last week is about to be a ride.
Yeah, and then we just have hopefully playoff basketball to talk about. But if not, we got a draft lottery to prepare for, and we got the draft to talk about.
Absolutely. It's good. It's plenty of stuff coming our way. Just because the regular season ends doesn't mean this podcast does.
Yeah. Heck no, we're going to be talking like all off season. Free agency's a big thing. Free agency's a big thing. I mean, the draft obviously because we will have some picks at least. Because I know I think we have the Lakers pick. I believe we have the Lakers.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, it's that's.
I think we have the Kings as well.
Maybe. I know for a fact we had the Lakers pick.
Yeah. I know we have theirs.
And I still have Nick Nurse to talk to. So
a lot of things going on in this podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
So, ladies and gentlemen, for those listening, this has been episode number 22 of Talking ATL Hawks. And when we come back, it will be episode number 23, the LeBron James episode, the Legoat episode, the Daddy episode, You
thought we were off our chain today. Just wait until next week when it's LeBron Day. It's gonna get messy.
Yeah,
it's gonna get messy. But hey, man, it's been Talking ATL Hawks. Look, I know we kind of seem down the dumps right now, but listen, man. At the end of the day, we are ride or die with the A baby, and you know what? We've got one more week left on our table. And as far as I'm concerned, as long as we got a week left, this 7th seed still up for grabs. We got to keep the
locked in, fellas. Baby. We're locked in.
Yeah,
let's
we're
go,
locked in.
baby. Caw.
Caw.